Ladies and gentlemen, this is the face of a man that's going to change the entire culture of our defense with the Dallas Cowboys. Mike Zimmer recently sat down with Ed Werder on the Doomsday Podcast and gave us some insights as Cowboys fans as far as what we can expect out of our team this upcoming season. The first thing he addressed was just how important stopping the run was going to be to his defense.
First game as a coordinator, we played the Eagles opening day, and it was the pickle juice game.
I remember that.
The onside kick the first game. And that year, I was coming to the secondary coach and say, hey, turn these guys loose, let them rush. And we gave up 220 yards rushing that day. So from that day on, there's always been an emphasis on stopping the run. And, I think you can go back through the time when I was from here all the way through Minnesota that we've put a major emphasis on the run game and it being a priority to do that in order to rush the passer.
Whew! That right there is music to my ears. A head coach that understands the importance of the big backs on the front line and stopping the run before anything else. Forget trying to get sacks. Forget trying to get interceptions. If you can't stop the run, all of those fancy plays don't mean a damn thing, because at that point the opposing team can do whatever they want with you and have their way. No diddy. Mike Zimmer has learned from his painful lessons that he learned decades ago. But for some reason, backwards baseball cap guy could not learn from those same mistakes that his defense made over the past 3 years. Every time the Cowboys have been embarrassed, make no mistake about it, the run game has been at the core of the issues that team faced, whether it be on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. The run game has been an issue for the Cowboys the last couple of seasons. Beyond stopping the run game, Mike Zimmer also discussed with Ed Werder on this podcast about how he planned on trying to utilize Micah Parsons and how he wanted to do things to help free him up by doing, you guessed it, adjusting his scheme.
Mike hired Greg Ellis to help with the defense in the pass rush, and Greg was the best I've ever been around using his hands and setting guys up with rushes and things like that. So, our job is to try to get, in a lot of the games last year where they didn't play quite as good defensively, the offensive schemed Parsons a lot. The back was checking, and coming over here or they got the two tight ends over there and they're both staying and all the protections turned that way. So our job is to, if teams are going to do that, number one, figure out a way how we can still use him where we want him, and number two, how can we use other people to affect those kind of protections? Because everybody's going to be aware of him, just like I talked about in the A gap. Everybody knows where he is. There's number 11, right? So we're turning the protection this way, and now how are we going to defeat that protection? And typically, when we started with the double A gaps and when I was here with Parcells, part of it was, how can we attack protections? And it's getting a lot of the other players to understand, hey, this is where the protection's going now. You guys have one-on-ones over here, or we have 3 one-on-ones with the back on this side. So how can we do that? And it's partly going to be their job to understand that, okay, we've got the slide going this way. We're man over here. What game are we going to run to affect those two players? Because it's 2-on-2 now.
The most refreshing thing about this entire interview right now is Mike Zimmer seems like a coach who has been able to actually sit back and look at the Cowboys' issues with an outside eye, and he understands what he needs to do to prevent the way that teams are trying to go about beating them. Everything he discussed there as far as teams using a ton of motion, i.e. the San Francisco 49ers, a team that consistently whoops our ass, in order to get our nickelbacks or a DB into a run fit, meaning they're going to be in charge of trying to help stop the run. And anytime you're trying to get a 190-pound to 200-pound guy to help stop the run in the trenches, when he's going to be going up against 6'5", 320-pound behemoths, you're going to have some issues. And the Cowboys found themselves in those types of situations multiple times last season. And not only that, they just weren't big enough on the field. By all accounts, it seems like Mike Zimmer plans on having plenty of big backs on the field, as you heard him say that he plans on having at least 2 linebackers on the field at all times, which means more big boys that can help rush the passer. And when you add capable linebackers to that, like a Marist Liufau, a Micah Parsons when he has them standing up, Eric Kendricks, guys that can not only help rush the passer, but can also drop back into coverage because they're mobile and agile enough. Not only that, but Mike Zimmer sounds like he's fresh off of reading The Art of War. This man is talking about legit strategies and how he's going to be making adjustments according to what the offense is trying to take away as far as his defense. If the offense is going to dedicate 2 or 3 guys to Micah Parsons, that's fine. I'm going to put Micah Parsons in a different spot on that line so that way I can dictate exactly how your line is going to be responsible for blocking my line. That means I can dictate one-on-ones and who has them and where they're going to be attacking from depending on whatever play or look the offensive side is giving, and that is exactly what I'm hearing from Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer sounds like a man with a plan. He sounds like a seasoned defensive coordinator, a guy that understands exactly what the hell is going on. And I'm going to be real, y'all. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right on this video. Dan Quinn is overrated. Dan Quinn is overrated. He did not build the Legion of Boom. Gus Bradley built the Legion of Boom before heading to Jacksonville to become their head coach. He's the one that got Richard Sherman and all those guys in there. Dan Quinn essentially Steve Kerr'd his way into that Legion of Boom position as far as the team already being built and put in position to be great, and then he comes in and essentially reaps the benefits of them actually cashing in on their rewards. He went to Atlanta. Remember who his offensive coordinator was, and remember he had an MVP quarterback in Atlanta as well. Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan had a large say in how good those Atlanta teams were. So much of a large say that, again, his quarterback won an MVP there. So it's not like his defense was carrying those Atlanta Falcons teams. And on top of that, he only had like 1.5 good seasons of defense with the Atlanta Falcons as it is. The Cowboys, when you get a generational pass rusher like a Micah Parsons coming in, a playmaking corner like a Trevon Diggs, and you completely rehaul the defense like the Dallas Cowboys did the year that Dan Quinn came in, I would assume the defense is going to be better than an historically bad outing that they put up the season before under Mike Nolan. So Dan Quinn must have a rabbit foot stashed in his pocket somewhere, because that man, in my opinion, has just been extremely lucky what he's been able to do with the players that his teams have provided him and the situations that he's been put into, right? So I'm not saying that he's a bad defensive coordinator, but I am saying that he maybe has gotten a little bit too much credit for the success that some of his defenses have actually seen. Not all of his defenses have been that damn good. But Mike Zimmer, however, has always had a specific style of defense, and he's always been the mastermind of those defenses. He's been the guy that has coached those guys up and put different dudes in position and flipped a lot of switches and pushed a lot of buttons to get different guys in place, and his impact on his team is already being seen. Remember, Eric Kendricks was set to sign with the San Francisco 49ers. He flipped and came to the Cowboys strictly to help Mike Zimmer implement his system with the Dallas Cowboys. So really like what I'm hearing from Mike Zimmer here. And he actually addresses some of what I just spoke on in this next clip as he discusses the linebacking core of the Dallas Cowboys and what are his plans for this position group.
Do you need to get bigger at linebacker? They had a safety last year playing linebacker, but I thought back about Coakley and Dat. They weren't exactly the biggest linebackers, and they played extremely well. How you've kind of evolved on that, and how do you view that position?
Well, I think, first off, we're going to try to have at least 2 linebackers in there all the time, and sometimes 3. So, a lot of things the offense is doing now with some of the jet motions and that, they're trying to get nickelbacks into run fits. And so, now you got a DB in a run fit, and you got another DB in a run fit. You're just not as physical as you need to be. And so, we'll have deals where most of the time we're going to have at least 2 linebackers in the ball game. And as far as getting bigger, Kendricks isn't the biggest guy in the world, but he's instinctive and he makes plays, and he flies around to the ball. So, but yeah, I mean, football's a big man's game. So the more that you can get that, but in today's game they still have to cover in space, and so you have to find linebackers that can cover in space, or they have to be able to add things in pressure package.
The last thing I wanted to go over as far as what Mike Zimmer was discussing was he actually had some comments about our rookie linebacker, Marist Liufau. Take a listen to what Mike Zimmer says about this kid, and this is one of the reasons why I'm super excited about this rookie draft class for the Cowboys.
What did you like about Marist? We got to talk to him a little bit today. What stood out about him? Because I'm sure he fits kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, number one, he's brilliant. He catches on really quick. Almost, he wants to be so good and so intense that I think he wants to be. He almost is like too much at it right now. But it's the first day. So, but the other thing is I think he's a really good pressure player, and I think having that with Parsons and another pressure player that is a linebacker, or he can move somewhere else and Parsons can move somewhere else. I think those pieces add to kind of confusion more for the offense. Plus, he's a pretty good rusher.
Yeah, all in all, I'm not gonna lie. Listening to Mike Zimmer talk is like football therapy. My man is actually talking X's and O's. He's talking strategy. He's talking game plans. He's talking coaching, meaning building players up and identifying areas of need where he can help players get better in. He's talking accountability. He kind of had like a subtle nudge here. I guess maybe combating some of those rumors about Micah Parsons being unhappy about having to take on double teams because he wanted to get sacks. Mike Zimmer kind of addressed that in a very, very savvy way by saying that if taking the double team is your job, that's going to help someone else do their job better.
But one of my big sayings all the time is do your job so someone else can have success doing theirs. So you might not like taking on this double team, but that's your job. And this guy, because you're doing it, has got an opportunity to make some plays. And next time, he's going to help you make some plays. But that's how it all works together, whether it's corners and safeties or defensive line and linebackers or whatever it is.
Again, it wasn't very pointed. It wasn't a direct comment towards Mike or anything, but it's just interesting to hear those kind of comments whenever we heard what Jesse Holley said about Micah Parsons and his alleged unwillingness to want to take on double teams. But either way, let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe for more Dallas Cowboys content. Oh, the regular. And I'll see you guys on the next one. We stay same old Cowboys.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Woo, oh, shut up, my boy, shut up.